It's awesome what you guys are a part of, and there's a lot of opportunities. And so if you guys want to talk more about what that looks like, feel free to talk to Chris, myself. I'm here for a few more days, so if you just want to even get ideas of how can I take what I'm learning and use it after this school. Again, maybe, I hope that for many of you guys that it would be in a DBS, but it might not be in a DBS. Maybe you want to do something else with it. So, start to think about it. Yeah.
But yeah, I just want to add to it. Thank you so much for sharing the opportunity. And if we look at the global movement of our mission, the DBS is actually globally expanding exponentially very quick. Yeah. And there's a real opportunity right there to jump into. And especially my personal vision is to see many Bible teachers, because the school is expanding and the teachers can't keep up. Like the invitations are like stretched too much already. So there is a real opportunity for Bible training for teachers as well. So if you like and are passionate about sharing God's word and be trained how to do that, man, this is the zone right now, because it's growing and we're in it. And it's something that is bigger than ourselves right now. It's not just happening in Europe, Amsterdam, but it's a global pandemic, like what I see in all over the world. And people are actually asking me, can you help us start here, start there, in Africa, in Asia, and even places in Europe? So that's an opportunity for you guys. Pray about it, and it's out there.
Yeah, it's exciting. I'm excited. Okay, guys, you finished 1 Kings yesterday, right? Hallelujah, woo, awesome, woo. Yes, made it to the death of Ahab, I think, right? Is that the end of 1 Kings? Yeah, the death of Ahab, woo, whoa.
We killed them.
We killed them. You killed the kings. Well, you still got some more to go. And it doesn't get better. Turn to the person next to you. Share what you feel like as you've been reading in particular, what's something that you're noticing, okay? Something you've noticed or has stood out to you, okay? So share, and then again, pray for each other. I won't steal next week's thunder. Okay, great. So yesterday we kind of started to move a little bit into Solomon, and I want to just continue with that. So kind of pick up from there. So David made Solomon king. There was a little bit of a rebellion going on with one of the other sons, but Solomon becomes king. And as you guys have read, like the next 11 chapters of 1 Kings is about Solomon. And that's a lot of chapters, okay? So we really want to look at, well, again, why did the author decide to really make this huge emphasis on Solomon? If you look at the timeline, it's not that Solomon, lived like that much longer than the rest of the kings, but the author really put a lot of emphasis on Solomon. So we want to look at Solomon, and of course, the place to begin is at the beginning of Solomon's reign. So what we are going to do is I'm going to have half of you guys read Kings 3 and half of you guys read Kings 8. And in those chapters, you're just, after you read through them, or, if you want to just Like you can read them out loud together, or you could just remind yourself what was going on. But yeah, discuss with each other. What do you notice about Solomon's character? And yeah, what do you notice about the way that he relates to God? Okay? So let's change it up a little bit, because I think you guys have been sitting in the exact same tables for the last 4 weeks. Okay, so we'll go with you two doing Kings 3, and you two doing Kings 8, and you two doing 3, and you two doing 8. And then Steph, you can jump into whichever group you'd like to. So yeah. Okay, so I'll give you guys probably about at least 10 minutes. That permanent place for God to dwell. It's pretty amazing. Yes. So we talked about, God showing up in a dream to Solomon. Well, God shows up a second time, and this time with a little bit of a warning. Let's look at 1 Kings 9. So Solomon finishes building the temple, and then the Lord appeared to Solomon a second time. And verse 3, just 3 to 9. Does someone want to read that for us? Okay.
The Lord said to him, I have heard your prayer and your petition. I have set this temple apart to be holy, this place that you have built where my name will be honored forever. I will always watch over it, for it is dear to my heart. As for you, if you follow me with integrity and godliness, as David your father did, obeying all of my commands, decrees, and regulations, then I will establish the throne of your dynasty over Israel forever. For I made this promise to your father, David. One of your descendants will always sit on the throne of Israel. But if you or your descendants abandon me or disobey the commands and decrees I have given you, and if you serve and worship other gods, then I will uproot Israel from this land that I have given them. I will reject this temple that I have made holy to honor my name. I will make Israel an object of mockery and ridicule among the nations. And though this temple is impressive now, all who pass by will be appalled and shake their heads in amazement. They will ask, why did the Lord do such terrible things to this land and to this temple? And the answer will be, because his people abandoned the Lord their God, who brought their ancestors out of Egypt, and they worshipped other gods and bowed to them. This is why the Lord has brought all these disasters on them.
Yeah, so again, we read this the other day too. Sorry, I just realized that. But it's like, man, God is giving them a warning. God is giving Solomon this warning. He's saying, hey, don't touch the red button. How many times are we tempted to touch that red button? Guys, I don't know if you realize this, but here on this base, there's a don't touch the red button, kind of. It says, please don't touch the switches. Does anyone know where this is? Chris does. Do any of the students know where it is? Sam, where is it?
That's our work duty. It's in the waiting room.
In the waiting room, yeah. I was in the waiting room yesterday, and I was like, oh my goodness. This is what one of my slides are. So I took this photo. This is in your waiting room. And yeah, it says, please don't touch the switches. I don't know. Does anyone know if it actually is real?
I know what the switches do.
I know, exactly.
Yeah, I know.
I think it's an old fire alarm system.
Oh.
We just updated it about 2 years ago. So it's still there.
Okay.
Classic.
Oh, it's cool, but man, whew.
No, it says no.
I don't know. I wouldn't.
I wouldn't test it.
The problem with that is that we get a lot of fines from the government.
Yeah, probably. So God is giving Israel a warning. God is giving Solomon this warning, and I think about my own life, and I think about how many warnings God actually gives me. I think He warns us all the time. Maybe it's through the voice of another person. Maybe it's through Scripture. Maybe it's just that impression, that feeling that we have. When I was still in school, so it's a little bit ago, I had, and I won't share my whole, growing up testimony, but there was a season in my life where I still said I was Christian, still believed in God, but where I very much did my own thing, like just chasing after my own pleasures. And I was in a bunch of relationships that were unhealthy. And I remember getting, I think it was maybe my second boyfriend, and I was in the car with my dad, and we were just driving, I don't know, probably going to the grocery store for the family. And my dad turns to me and he says, "Hey, Krystal, I know you're dating this guy." And I'm like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Krystal, I know you're dating this guy, and I just want to tell you that that you shouldn't be doing anything with him that you wouldn't feel comfortable doing in front of me." And I was like, "Oh, okay." I mean, at this point, it was just like this innocent, like, "Oh, we're just like, I don't know, whatever. He likes me and I like him." And yeah, at this point, it was really childish. And I was like, "Okay, Dad, whatever. Like, don't worry about it. Like, I'm not planning to." And yeah, anyways. And I forgot about it. I forgot that my dad really ever said that to me. And then some years later, I found myself in this relationship that was just super unhealthy and completely, not what the Lord had for me. And the Lord reminded me of that conversation with my dad, which, of course, at the time, very awkward. But the Lord was just reminding me of that conversation, and it was one of the things that really helped me recognize that I was really not walking out my life very well. And so I really believe that God is graciously warning us, and it's often really subtle. It's often maybe even at the beginning of something that could get bigger. We look at Solomon, at this point, early in his kingship, that God is giving him this warning, and he's saying, "Hey, if you go down this way, then this is what's going to happen." So maybe sometimes it's not that obvious, the warnings. This one is pretty obvious what God's saying, but some of the warnings are maybe not as obvious, but are there. And so, you can trust the Holy Spirit, that when there is something there that just is like, "Oh, I kind of need to pay a little bit of attention to this," or, "Hey, that makes me feel uncomfortable," or, I think some of the biggest warnings are when you don't want that to be known by others. That in itself, I think, is a huge warning. If there's something in you that just wants to like, yeah, keep that thing like hidden, or I would pay attention to that. That's all. So, yeah. Anyone have any thoughts they want to share on that? Otherwise, we'll move on. But yeah, so Solomon's time as king actually ends up being this golden age for Israel. And it is a time of great wealth. It's a time where there is peace in the land. Guys, the whole time of Solomon, there is not war. That's like, at this time in the world, that's amazing that there was not war, okay? There was peace. There was a united kingdom. Israel won. There was great wealth. And they were in the land that God promised them. So they were seeing that that promise and walking in it. God appeared to Solomon. There was relationship there, and people came from all around the world actually to witness this wealth, to witness this blessing, to witness the wisdom that Solomon was given by the Lord. And so we get to this chapter in chapter 10 with the Queen of Sheba. And I know you guys read this. It's sometimes a Sunday school story, so maybe you heard it in Sunday school. But but what I think is really cool is that she comes and she sees all of these achievements, this wisdom, and where is it? Yeah, in verse 9. So chapter 10, verse 9, she says, "Praise the Lord your God, who delights in you and has placed you on the throne of Israel." This Queen of Sheba, we don't really exactly know where she is coming from, but we at least know she's not from Israel. She's coming from some other nation, traveling from far away to come and witness this. And she is like, what is coming out of her mouth is like praising the Lord. And so you see that that Israel is being that witness. Israel is being that blessing to the nations as she comes and receives a bit from that wisdom that the Lord has given Solomon. And so I just think that's crazy. Like, okay, so when we talk about what the Lord was wanting to do through Israel, what he promised Abraham was that they would be a blessing to the nation. So it was, I believe that the Lord wants to bless Israel, but man, the Lord wants to bless Israel so that they can be a blessing, so that they can be a light to the nations around them. And here we're just getting like just a real small glimpse of that. How cool. So a couple of other things just to take notice of in this golden age, this time when Solomon was king, that there was a really good relationship with also the bordering nations. Part of that, was probably because of some of these marriage alliances, which I'll talk a little bit more about. But yeah, he had good relationships with some of the bordering countries. He had chariots, and more chariots, lots and lots of chariots. Interesting, because he wasn't in war, but he decides to build all these chariots. Yep, okay. And then, he fortified some cities, which means just make them stronger. He made some of the cities stronger so that if there was war, they were ready. So one of these cities is Megiddo. I don't know totally if that's how you pronounce it, but if you pay attention to the name of this city, you will be surprised at how often this place is mentioned. Not just in Kings, but this is one of the places that I have paid attention to now, and I'm like, whoa, this place comes up a lot. But this was known as the Chariot City. So there was, I'm not sure how many horses, but you can kind of see it's ginormous. And so these were all like stalls for the chariots and the horses, and Solomon had a lot of building projects. So the Megiddo, the Chariot City, the other cities, the palace that he built, of course, the temple, the home for Yahweh. And so this is not what he built. It's just a visual. But so he built a lot, which is, from the outside, looks really, really good. But, he, because of all the building that he had to do or wanted to do, he taxed people like crazy. So there was a lot of taxes and a lot of hard labor. And you're going to see just kind of how that played out later. But yeah, there was a lot of commercial activity, bless you, a lot of trade going on. Yeah, and so, so a lot of the, like I just said, a lot of the things that he built and did required high taxes and hard labor. So, yes. Some of those buildings was building other places of worship for his wives' gods. So we can kind of, start to see some not great stuff. This is one of the walls of Jerusalem that has actually just kind of recently been rediscovered. In 2010, they rediscovered it and have been excavating, like digging it out ever since. Sorry, some water. But yeah, it's about 70 meters, so 230 feet long, and 6 meters high, so 19 feet high. It's really, does anyone have an interest in like archaeological kind of artifact sort of stuff? I don't know. Okay, a couple of you, yeah, awesome. Yeah, man, if you guys are interested, you can find so much stuff. And the cool thing is that you find out how recently and how often like new things are actually being dug up and found. So yeah, this is one example. And this is another example. You might be wondering what this is.
Yes.
This is a wonderful piece of donkey poo. So this donkey poo here actually helped discover what. Sorry. So this helped them discover one of the potential like mines, one of the places that Solomon, because to build the things that he wanted to build, right, he had to have the resources. So he had mines where they would find the resources. And so even some donkey poo can help us maybe answer some of the questions. So we'll watch this. Sound doesn't matter. There's some words to it. There you go. Yeah, so it's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of interesting. There's, if you guys are like really, really interested, there's YWAM, DBS, Kona has some of their teachings from this week on YouTube. And there's a guy on there who's like an archaeologist. I can't even pronounce that word. Archaeologist. He's an archaeologist. I'm not, as you can tell. Can't even say the word. But man, if you're like really interested in that stuff, I'd listen to the King's Week teaching, because he just like he knows so much and shows lots of different pictures and all of that. No, Mark Smith, I think is his name. Yeah. So, yeah, it's crazy. I wish I could bring you guys through like that, but I can't. So, they did. I haven't looked since COVID, but yeah, we took our DBS there Jesus Week and spent some time around Magdala, which is like where Mary Magdalene was probably from, and we like served at the site there, and the process that you go through of like, I mean, discovering something. That site was completely by accident. I can't remember what it was. Maybe they were like just, I don't know, That's right. They were going to be building like a building, so they had to just dig a little bit to build this building, and then they ran across something that made them think, oh my goodness, there's something down here. And it was not even like that deep under the surface. It was like this far under. And then so now the last 10, 15 years, they've been digging up this site of it's like the village where Mary Magdalene lived. And so they've built this whole like retreat center focused on the women of the Bible, which is just really beautiful, and it's really beautiful. And the people there are just like so dedicated, and it was really cool. Well, the crazy thing is that so you can look at some of this, is that when we were walking around, just like, so we were helping pick up trash and just do a couple of real like simple things like that. This stuff was like just laying around, and she was like, oh yeah, that's just pottery from probably Jesus' time. And she just was like, you can take some if you want. And we were like, what? Okay. So it's not like, it's not like super glamorous, but it's like really, I don't know, it's simple, and it kind of helps you see a little bit into,
I remember reading about that. They were going to build a hotel. It's like part of the requirements is like when you're digging,
Yeah.
you hit something, you have to stop.
Yes.
People come and look at it, and so like dig more up and find that. It's super cool.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a hotel. The Catholic Church, I don't know, I guess owns it, and so it's like a retreat place. I mean, not just for women, but it's like it's really got that focus, and
That's awesome.
so that's cool. Anyone want to be a oh my goodness, archaeologist? Yeah.
Ever since Jurassic Park.
Yeah. Jurassic Park. Are we taking a break in 5 minutes?
We're taking a big break at 11, but you can have.
Oh, at 11.
If you want.
Okay. Why don't we just do a little stretch if you need to just quickly run to the, because I just want you to know that it's not like a guarantee that Solomon wrote these, okay? And so, I don't know. I have you guys read any of these before? Ecclesiastes? Has anyone read Ecclesiastes before? Some of you guys. Song of Songs. Has anyone read that one? Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Yeah. Wow. Impressive. But you hadn't read Kings before, huh?
We did.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Some of you guys did. Some of you. Okay. Yeah, exactly. Boys and girls should not read Song of Songs together. So there's just a couple things that I want to say about like how you should read or not read wisdom literature. And that is that you should keep in mind that it is one part of a whole collection of story, okay? So when you pick up Ecclesiastes, don't suddenly forget that there's like the whole redemptive story, the whole Bible, okay, that it's in. Okay, when you pick up Ecclesiastes, remember that it is part of a collection. And same with Proverbs. Same with all these wisdom literature books. It's just keep in mind that what you're reading is just is someone's writing of like, I guess, thought in a sense of what they've discovered or what they've wrestled with, and so it's valuable. It's meant to get us to think and to ponder. It's meant to give us some idea of how to live life in this world. But it is also, it's not like a book of promises, a book of formulas, and books of guarantees, okay? So especially when you read something like Proverbs, it's very black and white. It's like, I can't think of exactly how it might say it, but something like, I don't know, the rich always keep getting richer, and the poor always keep getting poorer, or something like that. And it's not, it's not a guarantee, it's not a promise, it's not a formula, but it's meant to get you to think, to ponder on it, to give us something to not completely live our lives by, but just something that maybe just helps us take a little bit of a step forward in life. So that's what I want to say about reading wisdom literature. I don't know, Proverbs was the first book that I ever read in the Bible. And it did really, that was the only book I read, like, when I was becoming a new Christian at like 16. And it was helpful to me. It felt very like relatable. You know, there's a lot of stuff about friendship and work and purpose and that. And so it really helped me. But yeah, I also think that, just keeping in mind, like, that life is not so black and white. There are things that happen that just don't make sense. And that is some of what the author of Ecclesiastes really ponders on. So,
Krystal,
yeah.
would you say that wisdom literature is more literature that's like meditative literature that you like meditate on?
I think so. I mean, I think you chew on it a little bit. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so maybe not always literal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not literal literature.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I want to just touch on the word wisdom and how different the wisdom of the world is compared to godly wisdom. And if you can turn to Proverbs chapter 9. Have you guys noticed that these books are kind of in a similar place in the Bible? Yeah. Wonder if they did that on purpose. Oh my goodness. Poipus. Okay, chapter 9, Proverbs chapter 9, verse 10. Sam, you want to read that?
Fear of the Lord is the foundation of wisdom. Knowledge of the Holy One results in good judgment.
Yeah. So the world kind of tells us that wisdom is something that you maybe intellectually build up. You know, the older you get, the wiser you get, because you've got some years and some experience and some maybe information. The world tells us that maybe that wisdom is even like what makes you feel good. You know, do you feel it's right? Do you feel that would be right for you? But godly wisdom is really from that foundation of fearing the Lord. And I don't know. You guys tell me, what do you, when you think of fear of the Lord, like, what is that to you guys?
Like being in awe of the Lord.
Being in awe of the Lord, yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I was gonna say the same. Awestruck wonder.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just like, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Also to have like the right perspective on God, that he's like, yeah, I feel him, he's not like someone I'm like on the same level as.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, like the same with people,
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, that's good. So what would make that important, do you think, related to wisdom?
that his ways are higher than our ways, and yeah, like you can compare, like we all say, like fear of people, like people pleasing,
Mm-hmm.
but they don't carry the wisdom that God does. So like when we fear the Lord, it's just something way like different.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So when we fear him, we know that he knows things that we don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
good.
I have a question.
Sure.
So I know you said don't don't read wisdom literature as like legit, I guess, literature, or not legit literature, as like promises or formulas or guarantees.
Mhm.
But what about when it has statements like Psalm 34, where it's like the Lord is close to the broken heart and saves those lost in
Mhm.
spirit? Like, why would we not want to take that as
Mhm.
literal versus? Yeah, I guess that's what
Uh-huh. That's a good question. I mean, to me, that sounds like something you can take literal.
Yeah.
It's more like, not all of Psalms is wisdom literature either, but yeah, I don't know exactly how to respond to that. I mean, that I think you can take literal, because it's something that you see of God's character throughout his story too. But there's like, the mouth of a godly person gives wise advice, but the tongue that deceives will be cut off. Okay, it's like,
Yeah,
oh, okay, like, yeah, is my tongue going to be cut off because I just
Right.
deceived? And yeah, I mean, sometimes, sometimes I don't always give the most wise advice. Does that make me like a godless person, right? Yeah, so it's more like that sort of stuff, yeah.
There's quite a lot of figures of speech as well, and just like, I think the main point of like, in reading wisdom literature is just to remember where it's placed, in what category it is, that it is wisdom literature. So there's things we can learn from, but maybe we don't always look at it so literal
Okay, that
as
makes sense.
like other literature types,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
So there's a healthy tension in it.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, it's also, language is poetic.
Yeah.
And it's hard to read it and translate it literal
Yeah.
and apply it immediately to our lives. I think how we approach poetic Hebrew poetry is very different, and we need to glean principles because it's written to that time and not in our time. So there are some statements that, okay, we can easily walk into and apply it. For example, uneven scales. Okay, that's don't cheat each other, for example. But there are also other figurative language that is not easily applicable.
Yeah.
It's too harsh.
Yeah.
Yeah. For example, if I read Proverbs 31, if I meditate on that, walking like women, I'm gonna have to marry a businesswoman because she's rich. So like it's not really fair, right? It's not everybody's businesswoman. So So you take out the principles of the meditations of the author.
Okay.
How do you apply that to your personal lives today? So those are the challenge of interpretation because it was written back at that time and then now you translate to this time. So more for me to pull out principles to apply in our days.
Mm.
That's good.
It teaches us wisdom how to actually live a righteous life.
Okay.
And also Ecclesiastes, those are the meditations about like, I've done everything in life, but what is really most important? And it's kind of an indirect way of teaching people, hey, you should do this better than living a life like this.
Totally.
It's more really looking into principles, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good.
Great.
Crosses different boundaries,
Yeah.
culture and time frame as well. Yeah. Yeah.
Good question. Yeah. Does anyone else have any more thoughts on fear the Lord?
It's like recognizing how holy he is, like,
Uh-huh.
like we would burn up in God's presence
Yeah.
because he's that holy.
Yeah. Does anyone have any life examples of what it looks like today to walk out in godly wisdom, in fear of the Lord?
Being obedient.
Being obedient? Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think it's not correcting ourselves with the worldly mindset and not trying to accept anything that comes like from the word.
Mm-hmm.
Like accepting everybody and everything because it's anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So surrounding yourself with like godly thoughts, kind of like, yeah, instead of the world. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's good.
I think also with like worldly wisdom is like really like you alone in your life. So really like deny yourself. That's also wisdom from God. Like that we have to essentially feel like we have a Lord in our life. It's not ourselves.
Yeah.
Because like the world is really like about you being the Lord and you being
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's. I think you kind of nailed it, or I think that's a really important thing you just said. It's like you being the Lord instead of the Lord being the Lord. Yeah. Yeah. It's good. Yeah. Tim.
I think it's also cool. There's a prophecy about Jesus in Isaiah. It's like this spirit of the Lord will rest on him. So like the spirit of wisdom and understanding and knowledge and fear of the Lord, and that he will delight in the fear of the Lord. So I think a lot of people see like, oh, we fear God. I mean, and we should.
Yeah.
But it's that. It's like wisdom and knowledge. Like when we have that, like that leads to fear of the Lord, and that we should delight in it.
Yeah.
It's like fear is not it's not like a bad fear. It's
Uh-huh.
a good fear.
Yeah, good fear.
Yeah. We have reverence for the Lord.
Yeah.
His holiness.
Yeah, exactly. Nice. Love it.
So a meme on Facebook that knowledge is knowing what to say and wisdom is knowing whether to say it or not.
Ooh. You had to think about whether you should say that or not, right? That's great. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I just like a simple example, like last night, it's like we were in that ministry time and, the Lord was like highlighting someone to me and I was like, oh man, I don't really know if I know what I'm like. I feel like I'm supposed to, like, I felt like the Lord wanted me to go pray for this person. I was like, I don't really know what to pray. And, but the Lord was asking me to go. So it's like, okay, I'm going to go and I'm just going to trust that the Lord's going to speak to me. So, anyways, I think just that, what you guys were saying of that instead of yourself being Lord, but the Lord being the Lord, and that love and that reverence of who He is just motivates you to want to, please His heart. So, so it looks so different than the world, right? Like, So different than the world. Okay, let's look at, I just want to mention this about Ecclesiastes because it helped me so much. There's this word meaningless that's said 38 times in this short book, okay? And this word meaningless is the Hebrew word hevel, okay? And what hevel is it's like a vapor, like a kind of like a smoke, like a something that you can kind of like see that it's there, but you can't grasp it. Like you can't, like if you try to reach out and grab smoke, like you can't quite grab smoke, but it's there, and it's kind of mysterious, and you can't grab it. And so when you are reading through Ecclesiastes, when you see meaningless, because in English that's like, it's such a, I don't know, that's such a heavy, like, a horrible word. Instead of reading meaningless as meaningless, think, and even when I was reading through it to prepare for this week, I wasn't even reading meaningless anymore. I was replacing it with like hard to grasp. And it just changed the way that the book felt and read for me. Okay, so when you're reading through Ecclesiastes, don't take meaningless as meaningless. Okay, that is going to be a huge tip for you. And with Song of Songs or Song of Solomon, again, I just want to say that traditionally people think that maybe Solomon wrote it, but I think a lot more people are kind of starting to think that he didn't write it. So I don't know if that changes the book for you. It does a little bit for me, because if you know what this book is about, it's about romantic a relationship between a man and a woman, and like just they are devoted to one another. And so this book does have a lot of imagery. So when you read it, it sounds really weird. But just know that it actually made sense to people at that time. It's very poetic. And but it's God's, I think it's God's gift to us that he actually included this book in his redemptive story. I think, I don't know, I didn't live in the centuries before, but man, when you look at our world today, like how much like sex is talked about is, I mean, it's all over. And so I'm really grateful that God put a book in his redemptive story about sex, and the way that it's meant to be, between a man and a woman in a devoted relationship to one another. And and so this is a story of a man and a woman who fall in love and wait to the right time to enjoy each other physically. So, and one kind of cool part is that there's a choir, guys. If you don't notice, there's a choir in this, okay? If you haven't noticed it before, in Song of Songs, there's a choir, okay? So, but yeah, I'll say that There's some people that read this book as completely symbolic of God and the church. So some people read it like that. And then some people read it more literal, meaning like, of course, it's poetic and imagery, but that it really is written about a man and a woman who love each other and marry and enjoy sex after that marriage. And yeah, so I just maybe will leave that with you. I personally, I'm like, I really am, I don't know, like, I'm really happy that God would include a story like this in his redemptive plan. I think it's, I think it's helpful. So, and cool of God to do that, because it is very much part of our life and our world. And, well, let's all be honest, we wouldn't be here if that was not going on. So.
It'll make you blush while reading it.
Yeah, it'll make you blush. Supposedly, I don't know if it's true, but someone told me that Hebrew, I guess probably boys and girls are not like supposed to read it until like a certain age. So, yeah, it's
PG-13.
it is it's PG-13. Yeah, it's PG-13. Yeah, or yeah. Anyways, yeah. So yeah, Solomon. What a guy! What a guy! I don't know. I want to start something else, but it just doesn't really make sense to start it before a break. So we'll come back after the break.